Hello my viewers, welcome back to the channel, and by the video title you know what this video is about. Today's video we're going to be diving into some receivers I think the Steelers should draft in the 2025 NFL draft. Now the first time I did, of course, players in the first round the Steelers should maybe draft. Then last time I did defensive tackles, and now 2 weeks later we're doing another one. I told you guys every 2 weeks I will have this draft update throughout the year. So we have some receivers we're doing this time like that. As you guys know, the Steelers probably going to be in the receiver business a little bit, looking to bring some guys in and looking through the draft to bring some guys for the future. So I got a list of guys who I think the Steelers should draft in the 2025 draft. And I can't do it without having my glasses, of course, to become Professor Arsenal. Put those on right here. And with that being said, let's get straight into the video. I'm going to start off first, of course, with my boy, Evan Stewart. A guy I mentioned many times when I'm talking about the draft and talking about different receivers the Steelers should look for. Evan Stewart's a favorite of mine because I feel like he emerged so well with the Steelers. The Steelers love receivers like that. Guys who are, I think, like 6 feet, 5'11"-ish, right at range, very quick, very shifty, a route technician, amazing hands as well like that. He can go out there and just make things out of nothing. A playmaker type receiver, one of those guys who are like Antonio Brown-esque. I ain't saying he's Antonio Brown, of course, but Antonio Brown-esque type guy like that, that play style. He kind of fall in that bracket. Route running, getting open, being quarterback friendly in a sense. So him going out there using his speed, his game-changing speed to go out there, take the top off the defense, being a deep threat, playing the slot, playing the outside. He can do all type of things and just like mix and match and make a defense have headaches like that out there trying to guard him and cover him. He's one of those type of guys. The only thing that's really a knack with him is his lack of size, because he's like 170 pounds, I think. So people might say he's a little smaller in stature, but overall, he's a good receiver. He go out there and make plays. He was with Texas A&M last year. He made some big plays for them too as well. He had the opportunity came about. Now he's with Oregon, and he makes some big plays with them too as well. I think he probably will be around that threshold of being like a late first rounder, maybe early second rounder, depending on how things go like that. Around that first rounder, second round type guy, but he'd be a guy who would definitely make a big impact, especially in the right scheme and the right team. I think the Steelers would be a perfect spot for him. You got George Pickens, who's on the other side like that, very physical receiver. You have him who would complement him perfectly, being able to play on the inside, outside, and do all type of things, be a route runner, and be a guy who can move the sticks for you and consistently be viable target for Justin Fields, who's going to be our future quarterback. I think that'd be a nice little combination. So I have Evan Stewart as one of the receivers to draft. And let me move on to the next guy who I think we should draft as well. The next guy, of course, is Emeka Egbuka. I mentioned him before on the channel as well. I think on the first video, his 40 time, he ran like a 4'2", 4'3"-ish, 6'1". He had a big time injury last year, like an injury that kind of took him out for a long time, a big severe injury. But he's back now, as you guys see probably from me showing the highlights on the screen. He's a guy who's just game-changing speed. He came back now. You see his acceleration is still there, explosive playmaking, a deep threat guy. Just a guy who can go out there and just make a defense have to rethink everything like that. He's a true deep threat receiver and can get consistently down the field and make those plays with the deep ball consistently. The Steelers been lacking that a little bit. Calvin Dawson's supposed to be that guy. I know we're kind of like, early on, we're going to see if we can get more kind of like utilized in the game. And we're also going to see, of course, if Van Jefferson can get more utilized in the game as well. But right now, it's really just George Pickens, and everybody else is just, just hanging around there like that. And I'm actually making this video Saturday night, so this is before the Charger game. So if one of those guys go off, I hope they do. I hope I can, relive with that, like that in the future. Like, yes, it went off and went crazy, but we're gonna see. But I think, of course, some of these guys just gotta find a way to just, make some plays and get open. I think a guy like Emeka Egbuka getting added to the team, he will be a guy who can take the top of the defense, who open up so much more for your running game, because teams be so afraid of that speed he has and then consistently getting down the field and tracking the ball, deep threat type of guy like that. He has amazing awareness as well, knowing when and how to use his speed and control and to run a route. Sometimes you run a route too fast, you can kind of mess yourself up. He know all the time. You watch his film, he know how to time it like that. He'll run a dig route, he'll run it too fast. He gives quarterback opportunity to meet him in the first window, maybe sometimes the second window as well when we get into the next level, and find a way to make plays like that. When the ball in his hands, he's very good like that. He's a guy with that foot in the ground, a dead leg, all type of moves he got like that to his arsenal, no pun intended. And he also got the quickness and the shiftiness and all type of things he has. So I think Emeka Egbuka would be a perfect guy to bring onto the team like that. He would complement George Pickens perfectly because based off his speed. He kind of reminds me a little bit of a, well, I know Ohio State, you know, Chris Olave. He kind of reminds me of a Chris Olave type, Tyreek Hill type. I'm not saying he's Tyreek Hill or Olave, but he kind of reminds me of that play style type. Those guys who just game-changing, like playmakers who had that speed, who could just take a 5-yard play and turn it to a 60-yard touchdown like that score because they're just so good with the ball in their hands. So I think he can be a viable piece for the Steelers. Let me move on to my next guy, my third guy, who I think will be a valuable piece as well. The next guy is, of course, Isaiah Bond. Isaiah Bond, you know, he was with, who was he with last year? He was somebody else last year. I know he's on Texas now, but he was with somebody else last year. I forgot who he was with, but he had some crazy speed. He ran a 4.28 his 40 time. It might be faster than that, like that. See how he looked a little bigger and stronger this year as well. But he's kind of similar in play style to Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, of course, wasn't his teammate because he left the year before he got there, but very similar in style. You know, they went out there and got the same guy, almost the same identical guy in play style. A guy who has game-changing playmaking speed and ability. A lot of the guys I've been kind of scouting a little bit have been two type of guys. They've been guys who have speed and guys who are big and physically opposing, because Steelers kind of lack that in the receiver room. You know, speed and also physically opposing guys like that. I know we got Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, but you can have speed, but I need you to go out there and use your speed, like consistently get open down the field. I think these guys who in this draft class right here, it's a lot of receivers, especially the past few years. A lot of receivers been coming out of draft classes going crazy. So I think Isaiah Bond is one of those guys who has game-changing speed, a playmaker. He's one of those X-Factor type of guys, and he has good IQ, a quarterback-friendly target. He always finds a way to get his quarterback attention and sitting in certain spots and just going out there and just playing smart football. He's one of those game-changing pieces you can have on your team like that. 180 pounds, 5'11", shifty, quick, put the ball in his hands and let him go crazy. The Steelers' offense is kind of similar to that. They need guys who can create in space. So a guy like Isaiah Bond will be perfect like that. Crosser routes, you know, the play action, we're using the run to set up the pass. For Arthur Smith, the things he's doing, this guy right here, Isaiah Bond, will fit perfectly in that type of style of offense. So I think he'd be a valuable piece if he was to add a guy in the draft. And he's gonna be a first round pick, I think, too, as well. He maybe can slip to second round depending on how things go. Depending on how the value of the receiver in the first round. You know, a lot of teams have different needs and stuff, so he could fall second roundish. But I think whoever get him gonna be a very good player. I think the Steelers would be great for a spot for him because we do a good job of developing receivers. You know, especially guys who have talent like that. So I think if he was available, you bring him in like that, and you see the game-changing speed he has, and see the ability he has to get down the field and make those big plays for you, and you'd be very excited for it. Now, let me move on to the next guy who I have on the list as well. The next guy I have on the list, of course, is Torrey Horton, a big receiver. He's 6'3", the same height as me, but he run a 4.4. I do not run a 4.4, but he's a big-time receiver, 180 pounds like that. Big target, strong hands, very physically imposing. You know, Colorado State University, you know, they go out there and his play style is a little different because like they throw a lot of checkdowns to him. I wish they would use him a lot more, you know, down the field, of course, but they throw a lot of checkdowns to him, a lot of things to him like that. You never get an opportunity to see his full potential fully because they throw a lot of checkdowns and all this crazy stuff. But when you do get the ball in his hands, he make plays like that. He's very good running out the catch, physically imposing, and he's smart too as well. He knows how to beat press coverage and stack, you know, against the cornerbacks, against the DBs that's on him. He does a very good job at that. If you watch his film, a lot of his film, I don't know the highlights I'm gonna show some of that stuff, but he find a way to just like get like physically imposed against most of the cornerbacks, you know, most of the DBs that's guarding them, stack them, and make big time plays, contested catches. He's one of those guys who 60-40 type guys. When the ball is in the air, he can make a big time play. He kind of reminds me of DK Metcalf and a little bit of AJ Brown type of guys, you know, guys from Ole Miss. Kind of reminds me of those type of guys, but a little different like that. So I think he'd be a nice piece if the Steelers was to go out there and add a guy who needs some more physicality in the receiving room. George Pickens is amazing, but after him, a lot of the other receivers are smaller in stature, don't play as physical like that, you know, in a sense of going up and getting the ball and making plays. But I think a guy like this will bring a different level to it. 6'3", 185 pounds, going to get stronger probably and bigger, especially as time goes on and you get to the NFL as well. Probably be 205, 210 by the time you get there, and be even more physically imposing and stuff. And some guys like that, sometimes they rely on their physical ability and their speed and all that, the athleticism they have. They rely on that too much sometimes, which can kind of hurt them a little bit. They might not work on their technique as much, but I think with the Steelers' ability to being able to carve receivers and bring their full athletic ability out, I think they'll be able to bring that out of him like that, to be more of a technician while you implementing your athleticism with it to make yourself even better receiver. So he'd be a guy who have on a list for the Steelers as well. And let me move on to my next guy, who's my last guy on the list on this video. Actually, I lied. I got two more left, actually. I got this guy right here and another guy after. And the guy I have right here is Xavier Henderson from Cincinnati, 6'3", I think about 205 pounds, if I'm not mistaken, like that. He's a guy who just finds a way to just stay open. You know, he's like a guy who I think might not be a first-round pick, or he might be second-round pick maybe, but maybe fall in the third round this threshold. You know, Steelers always find some guys in the rough a little bit, like guys in the mid, like third round, fourth round type guy. He might be one of those guys, but I think he can develop into being real good if he find a way to just get open. He's a guy who just go out there in intermediate routes, very consistent in running the intermediate routes, and also very consistent in moving the sticks, and also very smart. His IQ is very good. If you watch his film, you see how he go out there and like in zone coverage, he'll find different spots like that. I've seen it many times like that. He'll go out there and be a QB friendly type of guy and always find his quarterback like that. So you go out there and you see certain zones where, okay, I'm gonna sit right here. I know he know how to read the coverages very well, running on certain spots. You know, the route might say, take 5 and go this way. He might say, you know, I can go a little extra. I might take 7 and go this way because I see that the zone is sitting in. I know this spot right here going to be open for my quarterback. He does a good job. If you watch some of his stuff, it's just consistency like that. I don't think he's going to be a guy in the NFL who put up like 1,500 yards or 1,600 yards, but I think he can be a guy who put up maybe 800 to 1,000 yards like that, but definitely have almost 100 catches almost like every time like that, especially if he developed right. He's one of those type of guys, possession catch guys, the guys who just you get very comfortable with like that, guys you can just rely on like that and keep finding them over and over like that. But guys who the QB love to look for on third down situations, he's one of those type of players. I think he'll be a big time valuable piece for the Steelers, especially if Roman Wilson can develop the way we think he can develop. I know I'm making this video before the Chargers game. I don't know if Roman Wilson is playing versus the Chargers, but if he can develop like that in that style, and then we also get a guy like that too as well, it brings some more versatility to like the team and to our receiver room too as well. So I think Xavier Henderson, if he was available, hey, you go out there and get him, bring him in, I think he'd be a big time piece. And then move on to the next guy, who I think is the last one on my list. I gotta make sure, but I think this guy's in the last one on my list. My last guy on the list is Trey Harris from Ole Miss, and he's like 6'4", 210 pounds. He's just a super athlete. He's like DK Metcalf, you know, he's from Ole Miss as well. AJ Brown came from Ole Miss as well. I think Ole Miss does a great job. I don't know what they got down there, or formula, what Superman type of DNA they got there, Kryptonian DNA, or some super soldier serum down there, but they create some big physical, imposing, they're super athletic receivers. He's 6'4", 210 pounds, so he run a 4.39, 4.4. Like that, had the first class speed, very physically imposed. They can go up there and catch the ball, you know, strong hands, 60-40 type guy, 70-30 sometimes as well like that. When the ball's in the air, he go out there and just make a lot of big time plays. He's just a super athlete. Now, that could be a negative on him, like I mentioned earlier in this video too as well, like that. Could be a negative sometimes when they have like those super athletes, because sometimes they rely on the athleticism more than the technique, and they can lose themselves sometimes as well. And I think sometimes you can see that in his film, he kind of rely on that a little bit too much sometimes. But overall, we have a guy like that and talent like that, you know, you go out there and just do it like that. He make big time plays like that for his team. So I think he's a guy who, if he's available, you bring him in like that. He's a physically imposing guy, a guy who will be game changing for your team. Very good in the red zone as well. Like that's one thing too that kind of like he prided himself in too as well. One thing you'll see too as well if you watch his film, he's good in the red zone. He know how to find the different spots, get open. You know, with strong hands and athleticism like he has to get up in the air, it's kind of hard to kind of guard him, especially with those smaller cornerbacks and DBs. You know, you put a bigger guy on him sometimes, like you're like, oh, we're gonna do a double team, and so he's gonna be in the slot. We're gonna do a double team, put a linebacker, and then put a safety on him. That's not gonna work. And then you put on the outside, put a cornerback on a one-on-one, or you maybe double team, it still might not work either. He's a very good guy, a very physically imposing receiver, and he's game changing. He DK Metcalf type of guy, so it's very hard to like put a guy in front of him who has enough strength to press coverage him like that to get him thrown off his game. So he's gonna be a nice piece if he's available. I think the Steelers should take him, but that's kind of who all I have on my list. So Evan Stewart, Isaiah Bond, you know, Emeka Ibuka, Trey Harris. Xavier Henderson, and all the other ones I got on my list too as well. But yeah, these are the guys who I think the Steelers should maybe look into if they was to bring in a receiver in the draft, which I think they probably will be. Let me know in the comment section down below what you think and what guys that you like that as well. Who's your guy in the draft? As you guys know, Evan Stewart is my guy in the draft like that the Steelers should bring in. But let me know who your guy is and who the Steelers should bring in. Maybe first round, second round, third round, fourth round, maybe fifth round. You might be find a rough in the draft like that. You might see somebody that you like. Let me know in the comments down below. But that's all I have for today's video. If you like this video, like and subscribe for more content. And I'll see you guys next time on the channel. Peace out. Bang.